Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators and whose season would be more disappointing if they fail to live up to their expectations. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So right now, the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators are not living up to the high hopes they had going into this season. The Sens are a team that has 22 points in 24 games played at time of recording as my dog snorts. And then the Sabres are a team that has 27 points in 30 games played. So with this being said, they are both on pace to finish below 82 points, which, again, you play 82 games, you like to at least get a point per game in the standings, but these teams wanted more. So I guess what are we going to be talking about in terms of how would you measure which team would be more disappointing? Well, I think you kind of got to look at it as age and money and decisions and all those things are really key and pivotal, because there is just no way to sugarcoat it. Both of these teams got to feel disappointed in where they're at in the standings. Is their season over? Absolutely not. However, they sit 7th and 8th in the Atlantic Division. Teams like Montreal, team that I picked to be last in the division, is above them. There are some other sides too that, Tampa Bay Lightning without Andrei Vasilevsky, they were able to keep things afloat. I know they're not playing particularly well right now, but they're above them. And with these teams, what realistically should their expectations have been going into this year? Well, I think for Buffalo, a team coming off of a 91-point season, you knew there were going to be some hiccups and some bumps in the road as they are a young team. The youngest team by average age in the NHL going into this season. They're a team that's been without Tage Thompson in points of this season, and to lose a guy that is a 50-goal scorer for you is obviously heartbreaking. However, this was a team that finished with the third most goals in the campaign last year, but they ended up, having to ship off guys like Levi, their goalie that they're really hoping would be big things. And I just feel like for this Sabres team, regardless of the fact that they've had to deal with some things go against them with some injuries to some key players even before the season started, this is a year that will be disappointing. I mean, they just missed out, relatively speaking, on a wildcard spot last year. They own the longest playoff drought in the NHL right now at 12 seasons. And they were hoping, maybe, just maybe, to go out there and at least grab a wildcard spot. Right now, it's not really looking like that will be the case, as they are on pace for like a 74-75 point season. As for the Ottawa Senators, they own the third longest playoff drought at 6 seasons, haven't played playoff hockey since 2017. Looking at some of these guys like Brady Tkachuk and some of these other players, they've played a lot of hockey and they are looking for some playoff appearances and legacy boost out of their name. But I think for the Senators, you have multiple guys like Claude Giroux, especially, that have been there and done that. Vladimir Tarasenko, they were brought into this team to be able to push them up in the standings, as they feel like, we've got some young guys, we're ready to invest some money in some older players to hopefully be able to help us out. And I think the problem for the Senators is the fact that expectations are relatively high, but things seem to continuously go wrong for them. I mean, you've got the whole Pierre Dorian situation, you've got the Ostrevnik, you've got the Shane Pinto suspension, you've just got so many things that are going against this team right now, and it feels like for the Senators, they have not been able to gain traction in years, as they are notoriously one of the cheapest teams in the NHL. I know the market value is one of those things people talked about. Eugene Melnyk being one of the owners, that was a big issue in the league. We're not going into that. Obviously, he passed away. But this is a club that, out of all the Canadian teams, you just feel like, in the sense at times, can feel like the most hopeless, and they feel like they have the most bad luck. Going into the season, though, you've got Jacob Chikrin that gets more time to jail with them. They have, again, adding a guy like Tarasenko and some of the guys that they had, like Stützle, that had such a big year last year. Brady Tkachuk had a big year last year. He averaged over a point per game. The expectations for this team was not to finish dead last in the division. But here we are. Two teams that currently sit bottom of the Atlantic, and they are two of the three teams that hold the longest drought in the playoffs for the playoffs, and we're looking at them possibly missing out on postseason hockey yet again, which begs the question: what team would be more disappointed if they fail to live up to expectations? And just in general, whose season would be more disappointing? I gotta be honest with you, I think it's Ottawa here. Now, I know a lot of people seem to be more hype about the Sabres going into this season compared to how last season went for them, but the Sabres are young, and they've been able to get some guys on some long-term deals where you feel like with Dahlin, with Thompson, some of these other guys, they've got the key guys locked up for the future, and they are still such a young club. Whereas the Senators are a team that, yes, they do have young guys like Tkachuk, and you got a guy like Stützle that is so young and so impressive, but they've got some other guys you got to worry about here. Is Chabot going to be part of the long-term future? Is he going to be a guy that they can rely on to play, top pairing minutes for them in the long term, as he's already played almost a decade in the league? Those are questions that need to be answered. And the thing is, too, when you've got guys like Chychrun, when you got guys like Giroux that are going to be free agents after this next season, what do you do if you fall short of expectations yet again, where you ended up trading to get Chychrun, hoping he would come alive like he did with the Coyotes? They've won season. What do you do with a guy like Giroux that maybe he wants to stay, but again, older? He might not be part of the long-term picture, and a guy that could retire at any moment. Tarasenko is a player that, let's just say that he provides all the value you're hoping out of him. He's on a one-year deal, so he would be a free agent as well. These are just things they have to be concerned about, as this is a club that has tried to find their goalie of the future too. And I think for the Senators, they are looking at this and saying, I'm a little concerned, because we could have guys that are young that could be hitting their prime playing career type seasons where they, maybe even hit 100 points, and we still aren't even in the playoffs. Whereas Buffalo's in the situation where they still have a lot of those guys that are prospects that they're hoping could work out. So for me, I would say that Ottawa is on pace to have the more depressing season, or just more disappointing type season, even if they finish above Buffalo in the standings, because we're thinking long term here. Now, are those expectations playoffs? I think that they should be at least within the playoff conversation. Being at the bottom of your division and being about halfway through the year is not where you want to go. And if you finish with 70 points on the year, that is really disappointing. If the Sabres and the Sens end up, finishing with mid-80 points or something like that, I'd say, well, that's kind of disappointing, but, better luck next year. Whereas if they finish with 70 points, especially for Ottawa, you would say, what can we realistically do to improve this team, where we have pumped some money into some guys, and some of these guys might not realistically be part of a long-term plan, and how do we move up within our own division? But I guess this is just one of those deals where I didn't take notes. This is just off the top of my head, and this was something that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if anybody's done a video on this. I'm sure, Shannon, the hockey guy, GOAT of hockey YouTube, has probably done a video like this a little while ago, maybe. But looking at this and seeing where these two teams were compared to where a lot of people were hoping they would be, I just wanted to talk about this in today's video. So let me know who would have the more disappointing year if they failed to meet up to those expectations of at least being in the wildcard hunt. Let me know down below. Also, let me know who you think has the better long-term outlook for their future. All that stuff in the comments. Everybody, please make sure to stay safe. Have a great night, and you go off hockey all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.